Coming up on Dub Zone, Victory takes the Pride Cup and seals a top 2 spot with a win over the Reds. Canberra tames the Wild West to take control of its finals destiny, and the Sky Blues keep believing as records tumble in the Sydney Derby. Hello and welcome to Dub Zone for another week. Back with all the action, Teo Pellizzeri, our A-League's commentator, and Teresa Polias, our two-time Ninja A-League champion. I'm Amy Duggan and it's great to be with you after another week of Ninja A-League footy. Teresa, your favourite moment of the round?
I found it really fun to watch all the personalities on show, and if you saw the Newcastle Jets Western United match, Claudia Chico was on fire, being an absolute pest towards Chloe Legarzo. So I really enjoyed that little battle there.
You may not expect this, but the Sydney Derby was my highlight of the week. One of the best emerging young talents was on display, and Indiana Dos Santos had a pretty good game too.
Well, we're going to start the review and analysis at Amy Park in Melbourne as 2 took on 3. Melbourne Victory going head-to-head with Adelaide. And this one, well, it was wonderful, but it all came down to Nikki Flannery's change of position coming up trumps.
Yeah, masterstroke there from Jeff Hopkins, and look, she's had a great season, and I think she finally gets reward for it, Taylor.
I think Flannery's had great moments within the season, but at times I think she'd struggled playing on the left. We'd seen Gielnik through the middle. On the right, we've seen Holly Furphy come into the team and mix up the dynamic. I mean, it's Gielnik who's crossing it from the right to Flannery on the left here for the match-winning goal, but I feel as though Victory, they weren't at their brilliant best. This game took a long time to warm up, and they had the cutting edge in the dying moments in spite of conceding a late goal. And M. Gielnik can have no real arguments about the penalty, but Victory showed, I think, a real winning mentality to get over the line.
And that's the most important thing at this point, I think. But you mentioned she's been a bit inconsistent, Nicoletta Flannery, but I feel like it's hard to, in those positions, you're going to have inconsistencies when, it's an attacking position there. But yeah, good to see them testing new things before finals, and like you said, they were quite defensively resolute.
One thing she does do is play well at Amy Park, T. We've seen in the first Melbourne Derby, Victory may have lost to Melbourne City, but Flannery had an exceptional assist in that game. Is this a big stage player? Is this someone that come semi-final, second leg, grand final could be a difference maker for Melbourne Victory?
Absolutely, and she's a very experienced player. She's been around this league for a very long time and has had plenty of finals experience. So
brought up her 100th game this year too.
There you go. Speaks of her experience, but I think, she could definitely be the player that steps up during finals for Victory.
One thing I did like in this game, Jeff Hopkins, he's not known for playing kids. I think for him, a young player is still 20 or 21, but we saw that bringing off Rachel Lowe for Jess Young, and that first assist for the goal, it's only Jess Young's second appearance, and he showed a great deal of trust making that substitution in the 66th minute. So whether it's Laura Pickett or Alana Janchevsky, I think that's what Jeff Hopkins thinks is a young player, and it does mean that there was a bit of hand-wringing about there being no Victorians in the young Matildas, the under-20s team, but you could still argue that players that are in that next level, in theory, if we had an under-23s team, they are very well stocked in that demographic.
I think they are, and great to see young players getting a go in the Victory setup. Like you said, we don't see that quite often from Jeff, and giving that much time. So, he's trying a few things out of late, which is good to see.
It certainly is, and the win and the 3 points obviously means Melbourne Victory have sewn up second. I think they'd have to lose all 3 games moving forward to get knocked out of second spot. So they will be happy to secure a home finals or a finals match to start with, which will be wonderful for them, and also taking out the Pride Cup with their 2-1 win over Adelaide. Now, there was a little bit of a moment before the match when the goalkeeper Claudia Jenkins went down injured. That saw 16-year-old Ilona Malay come in to the goals between the sticks and got this wonderful message from her father. Have a look at this. A very proud father there. Congratulating his daughter on getting her debut between the sticks. What a game to come into, T, at 16.
Huge. And to get that late call after a warm-up, even harder so. But she held her own, and she's really a bright spark for the future. But my question, Taya, do you feel like the absence of Claudia Jenkins affected Adelaide?
It had to, because Jenkins had played every minute of every game. Now, Annalie Grove, who had been second choice, a couple of weeks ago when Malay started appearing on the bench, I asked Adelaide, is Grove injured? They said no. Malay's been rewarded for training and, this throws down a challenge for Grove if Jenkins can't back up for the next game because Grove was the starter more or less uncontested all of last season. It's a good position to be in to have three good quality keepers. Malay's young and I do think it affected Adelaide's mindset. One of the reasons the first half was so cagey is I think they held back a bit. It's a new voice.
Look, it makes sense.
We've talked about the teams that have had goalkeeper carnage this season and changed on a regular basis. How disruptive is it after having the same goalkeeper for 20 games to have an unexpected change after the warm-up now?
Oh, look, I'd be lying if I said it wouldn't get into people's head around. It's natural that it does happen, but you mentioned, they've got three goalkeepers to choose from. Well, I'm thinking, for next season, are all three going to hang around for that battle?
But in the short term, they want to win a championship. So we know that they're more or less landlocked into third, looking at an elimination final. Adelaide have now played the top two teams. They've lost all 4 games to Victory and City. The only thing they've got going for them is they've scored in all 4 games. So scored 7, conceded 12. Can they get over the hump, though?
I think so.
It is 4 losses from 4, and yet they have picked up enough points against the rest of the league to be clear third.
But if you look at that result against City, the 4-3, there were a couple goals there they could have absolutely avoided. Easy to fix those, and I think they would have taken a lot from that having scored in those fixtures.
I also want to talk about a couple of Adelaide's stronger players, and if I can touch on the goalkeeper situation as well. A young goalkeeper coming in is definitely not going to be as vocal and as commanding and as demanding as a goalkeeper that's been there for a long period of time, and I think there is no underestimating the voice that a goalkeeper brings, especially to a backline when it comes to information. But when it comes to Adelaide, I wanted to talk about there being no Erin Healy. Fiona Wirtz was subbed off again. Are they just managing her minutes? I think with Claudia Jenkins, Erin Healy and potentially Wirtz playing a full game, was it a different scoreline?
Well, I think I would say so. I mean, look at the season Erin Healy has had and her chemistry with those other players speaks for itself. So it's interesting. They've been thrown a few challenges lately with injuries at this time in the season. I do think they're being quite cautious with Erin Healy. I do think she'll be right to come back for finals.
They can afford to be. I mean, they still don't know who their opponent's going to be. Any one of 6 teams can still finish in 6th place, which means that they don't know who their elimination final opponent is just yet. But they can do some long-term prep for the 2 Melbourne sides should they get to the semi-finals. But right now they have to use these next 2 games really as opportunities to not risk anyone, not push anyone into the red with an injury if they're carrying one, and get them 100% fit. I'm expecting it'll be Hindmarsh, a Coopers Stadium.
That'd be amazing.
Elimination final. And to be honest, they're locked into third more or less. They can even start soft promoting it now, and then as soon as it's locked in, aim for 5,000-6,000.
And I think
maybe,
they'll get
maybe even
a great
bigger.
turnout.
And that it's going to be a huge occasion, that elimination final in Adelaide.
Well, there you have it. The scoreline, of course, favouring Melbourne Victory, locking up second on the ladder. Adelaide United locking down third. Let's turn now to the battle between Perth Glory and Canberra. Canberra took the long trip west, but it was worth it, bringing home the winning scoreline and obviously the 3 points on the ladder as well. What this does for Canberra is finally get them a win after 7 matches and moves them into the top 6.
This was a huge win for Canberra. The win of the season for them. I can't speak how important it actually was, but you could see there the classic Michelle Heyman style goal and a really well taken penalty against a very good goalkeeper on penalties in case he didn't want there.
It should have been 3-0, and that's only 5 minutes into the second half. But credit to Canberra, after Bethany Gordon misses that penalty, they don't drop their bundle. And Perth were threatening a comeback, but they were actually pretty well held, and we know this Canberra team is very good at crowding the midfield. They can starve the opposition of chances, and I thought they did that exceptionally well, given that it was Perth who were the ones at home and desperately chasing this game.
And that's been a problem for Canberra, is holding their own and holding a lead. So for them to have done that away from home in Perth, where games tend to be a bit chaotic there, really, really good. Puts them in good stead to keep their finals dream alive.
Well, can they stay in the top 6, Teo?
I don't think it's as simple as they've got Wellington at home and then Wanderers away. So
tough one, yeah.
It may look easy on paper, T, but there's a reason they'd arrived at this game on a 6-game winless streak, and why this was such a monumental upset. It's because they just don't score enough goals for us to think, yeah, they'll take care of business. I mean, how do you feel about their run home from here?
Yeah, look, I think every game's tough. I don't think you can guarantee anyone a win, bar maybe Melbourne City. But yeah, look, I think they'll take a lot from that mentally, from that win against Perth. And so if they can use that to their advantage and take the momentum into the next round, I think they'll have a good chance against Wellington.
What about Perth? Not such a prosperous outlook perhaps for Perth, especially given they've now got an injury to Natalie Tatham as well.
They need a miracle from here. Their goal difference is pretty poor. They would need a host of favourable results. Tatham has done an ACL before, T, so this is really sad. And she's in the futsal Matildas squad as well. Yeah. So if this is a long-term injury, it's a double blow because you miss out on that too.
Absolutely gutting for Tatham. And, you know, you never want to see players go down like that. And she's such an important player to the Perth team, but really disappointing loss for them. The dream was going, and I think they know full well that that was too big a hit to continue their finals dream, I think.
With that said, I mean, maths aside, what's going on with the first Heyman goal? It just feels as though the defence stepped up and Naomi Chinema was left one out defending, and it plays Heyman onside for a fairly easy finish, and they scored the penalty soon after. But T, is this just, at this stage of the season, is it miscommunication, or have Canberra just caught them cold?
Well, you saw them step up there, and, you know, there was a miscue in the timing of the ball. Stanic Flighty got between those two defenders and nodded it on beautifully for Heyman. So credit to Canberra, because it's a great goal, you know, for them, and that's the best way to use Heyman. And one-on-one against Chinema, you know, she pretty much had no chance. So, but yeah, for Perth, a bit of disorganisation there, yeah.
All right, well, let's hear what Michelle Heyman had to say following the match, followed by Izzy Dalton.
How confident are you that this green machine can roll on all the way to finals?
Yeah, we've got it in the bag. I always knew it. You know, it's been a difficult season at times for us, but, you know, our football is always growing week in, week out. So that's a real positive. It's now just, you know, trying to create more chances in the final third. That's something we've been lacking this year. So our main focus today was try and get in and around the box and, you know, actually shoot. So we did that and we scored goals. So hopefully we can continue.
I think we obviously just have to look at the fact that we're so resilient. I think despite going 2 goals down, we clawed back there at the end, and obviously unfortunate not to get another goal. But in terms of the group, I think there's kind of that never say die attitude, and I don't know, I have to be proud of the girls for that. They're never going to give up, and to see the young ones coming on and stuff like that, it's nice to see. And I guess just going into this last couple of games, hopefully more opportunities will be given and we can kind of build steps towards next season.
Isabel Dalton following Perth's loss there at the Sam Kerr Football Centre, hoping for a miracle and hoping for a good end to the season for them. All right, it is now time to find out what is cooking on socials with Narlene Masto, thanks to Ninja.
I'm Narlene Masto with what's cooking on socials and in the world of women's football. Brought to you by the Ninja Woodfire Outdoor Oven, which can turn any space into an outdoor kitchen. A few weeks ago, we saw Alana Yonchevsky share how she uses the Ninja Woodfire Outdoor Oven. Well, now we've got another tutorial from a few Brisbane Roar players. Leah Varley and Tanae Morris were having a little bit too much fun turning Powerade into a slushie using a Ninja Creamy. It turned out amazing by the looks of things, and their teammates just couldn't resist joining in. Former Sydney FC player Charlie Rule made her first WSL appearance since December 2023. And what better way to mark your return from an injury hiatus than scoring? The Brighton midfielder scored in the 92nd minute against Manchester City. Now on to the Matildas squad, as Sam Kerr has been included ahead of Friday's match against South Korea. Kerr will make her international return for the first time since sustaining an ACL injury back in January 2024. Although she's not medically cleared to play competitive football just yet, Chelsea have granted her leave to continue rehab under the supervision of the Matildas. Melbourne City's Leah Davidson has also received a late call-up to replace an injured Katrina Gorry. The 24-year-old will join her teammate Holly McNamara in her second camp since making her Matildas debut in December last year. My question back to the Dub Zone panel is, how do you think head coach Tom Samani is going to utilise McNamara in their current squad?
Thank you, Narlene, and great question. Panel, how do you use Holly Mack?
Well, I'd like to see another start for Holly Mack. I think she's earned that, and personnel-wise, I think she would slot in really well. Whether it be central or out wide, I think that's going to be based on who else is out there and personnel.
You have two things that Holly McNamara can do at an elite level. It's break into open space and run with the ball, and also her close-range finishing. And that is specific to the two different positions. We've just seen her so instinctive. This is a great example here, just in the vicinity of the penalty area, the instinctive to
Shoot
know
on sight.
when to shoot. But breaking into open space is what thrills a crowd. And I think Holly McNamara in front of full stadiums is going to be so exciting.
Yeah.
If they can set her up, whether it's the left wing or the right wing, to play her into open space and have her run into open space. And if that's one-on-one against a defender, if that's in an unguarded wing, they need to set up that scenario as often as possible.
Do you think we're more likely to see her centrally though, Teo?
It's hard to say because Michelle Heyman's obviously in the squad. I think the profile of front three Australia wants going to be fairly versatile in this game. It may also be based on how many minutes they want to load into the ones that are heavily involved in club football. As important as Caitlin Ford has been, team, Arsenal's in the Champions League semi-finals. So they've got, on top of their league commitments, they've got two vitally important games coming up. I just wonder whether that might mean we see less Caitlin Ford and more Holly McNamara as a result.
We might see her starting alongside Michelle Heyman. That'd be a great sight to see, wouldn't it?
Well, let's stick with Holly Mack. And, of course, those games against Korea Republic kicking off on Friday and then on Tuesday in Newcastle. So Friday in Sydney, Tuesday in Newcastle. Good luck, Matildas. Sticking with Holly Mack, let's move on to Melbourne City because, yet again, they've come up trumps.
And yet again,
Surprised?
who is it that scores for City and secures them the win? It's Holly Mack. And I made a list at home of all the instances throughout the season that she's been the late scorer or the early scorer in a game where they've only scored the one, just like they did against Wellington. And just goes to show how important she is of a player to the City setup.
Not to be undersold, Lourdes Bosch was already the assist leader in the league and provides the cross there again for Holly McNamara. Now, Wellington, after this moment, Teresa, I think they just got really demoralised. And they have had their issues scoring goals. Milena Mires will always give you a chance. And she gave Wellington a chance there, and it wasn't to be. But in the second half, I feel as though Melbourne City, this was about their attempts to score a second goal and put the game out of reach, far more than it was Wellington ever really threatening an equaliser.
Yeah, they just seemed down and out, and you know that chance that Wellington just had, there's that missed penalty as well, but the chance Wellington had, you're just thinking, how did that not go in? And I really think that bothered them mentally, and they couldn't recover from that.
Not forgetting that City played 2 games in 5 days as well, so weren't as fresh as Wellington perhaps on that one. Things did get a little bit spicy though between Mariana Speckmeyer and Tiana Jaber. What did you make of this? Because I know there's a little clash we're going to talk about coming up, but what did you make of this one?
Yeah, another similar clash here, and both players who know each other, and I think Jaber's just herself. She just doesn't really care who she's up against. She just that's part of her game is niggling people and being a serial pest out there.
Jaber's been sent off once this season and has been sent off previously at other clubs when she was at Newcastle earlier in her career.
It was a little dramatised.
As much as we see the fun in this, is this something that should have been coached out of her game, specifically through instruction of a senior coach by this point?
At times,
do you want players on the edge to cross the line if necessary, and it's the risk you run, potentially getting booked, potentially getting sent off?
You want players to be themselves out there, but there is a fine line, and when players are crossing it, and we have seen Tiana Jaber being sent off this season, you've got to teach them and guide them in a way to be able to control that energy out there.
Well, Nick still are a mathematical chance. Keep that in the back of your brain. But we did mention that Melbourne City had played 2 games in 5 days. So let's have a look at the earlier game against Brisbane, where they also came up trumps with all 3 points. I think I asked last week, were Brisbane any chance of the upset here? And everyone unanimously agreed no. What was it about Brisbane that let this one slip yet?
No, I believe I said I was commentating the game and would remain impartial. Look, Melbourne City, if they played like this every game, I feel as though we were discussing last week, how do they become beloved by the neutrals? It's to just turn it on and steamroll teams with great football, which is what they did in this game here. I thought that Brisbane Roar had half chances and hung around 1-0 down for a lot of the night, and then Melbourne City almost decided to make a statement by the end of the night, and they scored 89th, and then in stoppage time, the goal difference is almost an irrelevance to them. They're plus 27, Melbourne Victory are plus 17. So a night like that one, T, puts them out of reach if it comes down to a tie at the end of the league.
Brisbane are lucky that they did all their good work in the first half of the season, and honestly, they've just dropped off. It's like a completely different team, chalk and cheese.
Melbourne City, though?
Melbourne City, I mean. And for them to still be getting results in such a short frame of time where they've had a number of games, and different competitions, it's outstanding.
We talked about the frequent fly points. I mean, back when you were playing,
yes.
how difficult would, I know Wellington weren't in the league, but how difficult would Brisbane away, Wellington away, with a 4-day turnaround have been considered by the players of your era?
Super hard, and given they've had the Asian Champions League to deal with as well, and it's incredible what they've been able to do, and they're 21 rounds in and they're unbeaten.
In 21 matches.
It's outstanding.
Because we talk about the earlier seasons, but we do also have to remember that teams that did this early on had shorter seasons. So going through a season undefeated, but a season undefeated at the moment is as long or longer than any season we've seen before. Let's move on because T is still smiling. I can't believe it. She wiped Sydney, and ever since she wiped them, they've just gone on this winning run. Back-to-back wins for Sydney now, taking out the derby over the Wanderers. Pretty good crowd at Marconi Stadium as well.
Yeah, great for the Wanderers to have a good home crowd because, T, they've not won for 11 derbies. They've not scored for 11 derbies as well. And to be honest, did this game do enough, as you take us through the action, to change the pattern of what we've seen in the past?
Look, to me, I felt like there was a bit more competitiveness from the Wanderers. They did have quite a few shots. Obviously, Sydney did dominate in the shots. We saw there the unfortunate handball here, which, obviously not the way the Wanderers wanted to start. And look, it hit both players' hands there. I wanted to get your take on that, Teo, whether you thought that should have been a penalty.
We'll move back to it, but what happened as a result?
Yes, look, a great penalty from Mackenzie Hawkesby, her, and I feel Indiana Dos Santos at the moment really carrying the team in terms of goals, and good to see Dos Santos in that middle area, that her playing centrally, another great finish there. Good work from Millie Farrow as well to get that across, and it was off a pretty poor error in a very vulnerable area from the Wanderers there, but Farrow gets it nicely across, and Indiana Dos Santos makes no mistake and slots that really wonderfully home.
Look, it's a tough penalty call with we've got super slow-mo there to see it hitting both arms.
Yeah.
So I think you give the referee the benefit of the doubt. Wanderers protest. Did they do enough chasing the game in the second half, T, given that they're 2-0 down fairly early in the second half? Same old story, haven't scored in a derby since 2019. Yeah. I mean, even just a goal, even just a 2-1 loss would be a sign of progress.
No, I don't think so.
Did you see signs of progress?
Especially at home. When you're at home in a derby, you got to do more than that. They need more. That the derby's become so Sydney FC dominant that we want a bit of spice out there. We want fans to get back
pride.
Into it.
It's pride.
A bit of pride.
It's pride in the jersey.
Spice, a bit of
pride in your team.
Feist out there. And I don't. Being 2-0 down in a derby, I didn't see much of a change.
So Wanderers have lost every game since they announced Jeff Abrahams as full-time coach after the end of his interim period. They've got victory in catch-up round, away to Brisbane, and then Canberra at home. Even a draw would do massive things to either the title race or the top 6 race. Are Wanderers going to finish the season on a 6-game losing streak, or can you see them getting at least a draw in their final 3 games?
No, I think they've improved enough and they can do damage. And you mentioned draws as well, and absolutely, I don't think they're easy beats. I don't think they're a guaranteed 3 points against other teams. So, I don't think they're going to be easy to beat for Canberra. And who was the other one?
They've got Brisbane away.
Yeah. So They're two tough fixtures for two teams that need the win.
Yeah, they all need the wins, that's for sure. As did Sydney FC, and Indy DeSantos was the one that put the ball in the back of the net to seal the deal. She's really been a bright spark. We spoke about it earlier in the season and the pressure that she was feeling, or must have been feeling, as a 17-year-old in the centre of midfield. But the last couple of weeks she's really stood up and, you know, another shot there. Yeah. Okay, it's off target, but to have the confidence to actually take it is wonderful. It is a lot of responsibility, and she's handling it admirably.
And if you meet her, she's such a chilled out kid. I think she just enjoys it. I don't think she thinks too much about it. I think she goes out and just plays football. And lately, she's actually played more central, and I think that's been a game changer for Sydney.
It just comes very naturally, and even in a team that's struggling, her own performances have been they've been improving. Like, she just gets better and better regardless of whatever hurdles the team collectively is having to overcome. I think it helps that she's in a footballing family. She's got Janaea pursuing her career at Canberra. She even mentioned in the post-match interview, younger sister Kiki's in the Wanderers Academy.
There you go.
So she's got she's got sisters that are dotted around the league. But I think that family collective are all pushing and driving each other. And in some ways, I do think that has helped take the pressure off, because it's not one child within the family carrying the expectations of their footballing career. It's a collective journey between, you know, multiple sisters.
Yeah, and I think the message is just go out and just enjoy yourself. And that's what she does. You can see the way she plays. She's got a smile on her face. Nothing phases her.
And a big shout out to her parents as well for driving all of the girls everywhere, every weekend, all the time. Now, Teo, what this does do is throw up the unimaginable, Sydney coming from the bottom of the ladder to potentially play finals football. What's the permutation for them to make it, please?
Well, they will be cursing that Perth dropped that game to Canberra, because Canberra's now in the box seat. They control their destiny. If Canberra just draw one more game, their goal difference is -6. Sydney FC would have to win all their remaining games and overtake Canberra's goal difference in order to do that. Sydney home to Perth, away to Adelaide. Canberra home to Wellington, away to Western Sydney Wanderers. The other spanner in the works, T, is if Brisbane can win one more game, Wanderers at home or victory away, they would also go to 28 and have a far better goal difference. So that would effectively knock Sydney out, because Brisbane are +6, Sydney FC are -6.
So basically what you're saying is they've got to win all 3 games and by about 5 goals a game.
Sydney have got to win their remaining 2 games, and they've got to hope that Brisbane only draw from here and do not win. And they've definitely got to hope that Canberra either only draw one more game and then lose the other. So it's pretty unlikely at this point. But to even get to 2 rounds of the season to go, T, it just goes to show that if you're the big boss of the league and you've got all that history behind you and all those trophies in your cabinet, it just looms over other teams that are trying to fall over the line.
And to think just one win earlier in the season would have changed things.
One non-loss could have changed it all earlier in the season.
I'm just going to not comment anymore, because ever since I stopped commenting on Sydney, they've been on a run. So they're going to, that's it.
T's lips are zipped. Well, you need to open them again, because we're going to talk about the Central Coast Mariners and Brisbane Roar. Central Coast taking this one 2-1 at Industry Group Stadium. However, it was Brisbane who got off to the brightest start. In the first minute of the game, Lainey Fryer knocking the Roar out of the 6 and out of a final spot.
I mean, this was perfect for the neutral, though, because Brisbane had come in pretty, bad form, it must be said. And this set a challenge down to the Mariners. Brisbane Roar, T, would you believe, had 22 shots, 7 on target, but they peppered with no success. And then we see Izzy Gomez here.
What a goal this
is. The cutting edge that was needed.
How about the speed she showed? She's just really come back faster, better, stronger.
Again, we touched on this last week about the growth needed as she returned from injury, and it looks like she's back all guns blazing.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the difference between, I guess, in this game. Brisbane just couldn't overcome it mentally. They had all those shots, and then Mariners get those couple opportunities and take them.
What was telling about that goal there, T? You see the front 3 for the Mariners. Trimis with the assist, Rasmussen with the goal, and Fuller is the one getting forward on the left flank. So M. Husband made some really brave subs, took off Brooke Nunn at half-time and took off Jade Pennock for Tiana Fuller during the second half. And it's a teenage front 3 of young Australians that get it done, with the foreign imports sitting on the bench.
Yeah, very brave. And when you're playing for your final spot as well, even more so, but they got the job done, didn't they?
We've found out just on the day of recording that Izzy Gomez, as good as she was in this game, the Matildas have decided Leah Davidson's the player they want to bring in with Katrina Gorry pulling out of Matildas camp. What are your thoughts on that, T?
Interesting one. I suppose they've gone more defensive there, given Gorry's more of a defensive midfielder, and that's just Leah Davidson to a T, whereas we're seeing, have a look at this, I mean, does Izzy Gomez look like a defensive midfielder?
Well, she does, because she wins the ball back.
Yeah. Well, and she goes, look, bear in mind she's come back from injury too, so there's probably management in I don't think it's the last time we're going to see Izzy Gomez selected. I really do think they're just giving her time to really get her body right. That's what I think. You
maybe
can't
for the Argentina window.
Soon,
Think
yeah,
about that.
There you go.
A couple more good games under a belt.
There you go.
Maybe she'll be in question for Argentina. Okay, time to get some post-match reaction. Let's go to Brisbane's Holly McQueen.
Yeah, we're heading to Singapore on Tuesday for a week to verse the Singapore NPL side. That'll be interesting. We're all excited. It's a trip away, which we haven't done before, but yeah, we're looking forward to it, and it's just another bonding experience for us.
Do you feel as though it could be the circuit breaker to get the team's mind off the league form, just enjoy being overseas, enjoy each other's company in a football environment for a week?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a great refresher and bringing us all closer, ready to go for the last couple games.
Off for their game against Singapore, an exhibition match, and using it as a refresher. It's exactly what they need, Teo, but do they need to be doing it in Singapore or here in Australia?
I think the thing about this game is, I mean, we all remember Arsenal coming out here to play the A-League Women's All-Stars at the end of last season. We should be flattered that the Singapore Women's Premier League are bringing out the Brisbane Roar to do something similar. Not only are we being good football citizens, it shows that the profile of the Ninja A-League is rising. And people, if anyone is cynical about this, if anyone says, oh, they're going for money, damn right they should be going for money.
Yeah, why not?
People should want to see our teams and our clubs and our players in their country. And if it helps raise the standard of what they
profile,
do, if it's a showpiece event, I mean, I ran it through the exchange for the money. It's a $29 ticket to go watch this game, Australian, against the Singapore Women's Premier League All-Stars. So, T, look, the timing, I think, could be good because they need a circuit breaker, but also I think it's a great sign commercially for what the Ninja A-League is doing.
Yeah, I'm all for the commercial side of that and building the profile of the league, but if we just think of Brisbane themselves, and I know there's the international break and it's good to play a game, but that we're thinking travel involved as well. They're struggling in the league.
They look so excited about it, though.
That's great. That's all well and good. I just don't know if it's...
They are trying to fall over the line here and get into the top six. I think that in that environment for 7 days, most of this team will have played junior national team, but some of them never would have gone internationally for a football experience. I just wonder if being in that environment for 7 days, live, eat, breathe football, it's your sole focus, you're away from your day job if you have one, you're away from your studies if you have them. I actually think it's the sort of thing that could get them to lock in and actually really sharpen up for the final 2 games of the season.
It could do, Teo, and I guess it remains to be seen. It could go either way.
Let's talk about Newcastle taking on Western United, because Western United went up 2-0 in this one in Newcastle, so made the trip to Newey and came away with the points. Teresa, talk us through the highlights.
Yeah, I thought it was a really professional performance from Western United. An interesting game, and I think they played to the conditions really well in that first half. Western United had the wind behind them and they peppered Newcastle with shots, and Krasaniak really kept Newcastle in the game. You'll see a good shot here from Lagazzo. Taranto had a couple more, so did Lagazzo, and a couple phenomenal saves from Krasaniak.
So I want to talk about Chloe Lagazzo in this one, Teo, if we can, because a bustling presence up front, leading Western. She missed Western's last 2 finals campaign, but she's super important to what happens with this team moving forward.
Yeah, we've crunched the numbers. Teresa, when Chloe Lagazzo plays, Western United wins 60% of their games, and that is not just this season, that's all 3 seasons that she's been at the club. When she's not there, they win 39% of their games.
Not at all surprised that, that's the impact she has. She's a leader on and off the pitch for this team, and when she's out there, she lets her actions do the talking.
It's important. How important is it, T? Because this was away in Newcastle. It was a good away win on the road. They are only a point ahead of the Central Coast. They've got Adelaide at home and then Wellington away. So they actually got 2 pretty tough games to finish the season. But how badly do they need to finish 4th and get that elimination final in Tarneet, as opposed to potentially being away to the Central Coast, away to Adelaide, or even away to Canberra, depending on how these final 2 rounds of the season go?
Honestly, I don't really think they mind where they finish, this Western United team. I think they're a team that thrive on being underdogs. I think they've performed their best and get their best results when they are the underdogs. So I think they've just been focusing on getting some form back like they did in this game. It was a massive win for them, really good performance. And I think they're just happy to and wanting to make the 6, and I think they've done that, and the pressure's off them now. I think they'll in their last against Adelaide, they'll give them a run for their money as things stand, especially if the likes of Erin Healy and Claudia Jenkins are out. And Wellington, although that's away, Wellington aren't playing well at home at the moment.
And Wellington might be mathematically eliminated by that game too.
Exactly. Yeah. So
tick the box in the top 6. We'll just take it from here wherever we go.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's hear for some post-match reaction from Chloe Lagazzo.
Look, I think that was probably the best performance we've had as a team, and it's definitely not easy. No game in this league is easy, so it was just good for us to find that flow, and I felt like we could have kept going for another 20 minutes.
Well, for you out there, we saw you getting involved in and amongst a lot of fiery contests with Claudia Chico as well. Do those kinds of things kind of motivate you when you're in the game? Do they fire you up?
Yeah, I mean, it is a part of the game, a little talking here and there. Look, I love some competition, and it gets a bit feisty out on the field. But yeah, I love every moment. As soon as we walk off that pitch, we're back to being mates, and I think that's the best part of the game.
Yeah, no mates on the park. All mates off the park. T, that was your favourite moment of the match, but just imagine having Chloe Lagazzo staring you down on the pitch.
Oh, look, and that's the thing, when you get under her skin, she fires up, and I think Chloe Lagazzo fired up plays her best, so watch out.
Sliding doors, because Claudia Chico very nearly joined Western United in their inaugural season. So those two could have been teammates and best buds, and instead they're fighting against each other in the 6-yard box.
Yeah, they were, but it was Western that came out on top. Let's take a look at the ladder and where it sees everyone sitting with that win. Western maintains 4th on the ladder by a single point over the Mariners. Melbourne City still on top, that big gap there. Could be shrunk a little bit this weekend with Melbourne Victory and Western Sydney playing each other. Adelaide locking down 3rd, Central Coast, as we mentioned, in 5th, and Canberra rounding out the 6th and being chased by all those underneath them. But with so many complicated permutations, I've got no idea who's going to make this.
It's a tricky one. It's still at this point for all these spots to be up for grabs. It makes for such excitement with every game.
Canberra's in the box seat, but they need to be the ones that close it out. I do wonder if the psychology of Brisbane Roar finally being tipped out of the 6 and now having to prove themselves coming from outside might actually help them chasing rather than protecting.
Well, that remains to be seen, Teo, but I'm not convinced by either Canberra or Brisbane, I think.
Because there's a team in Sky Blue that's still in green.
I'm not saying anything about that team.
Talking about it.
Stop trying to jinx them, Teo.
Well, no jinxing or having to worry about jinxes this weekend, because the only game, thanks to the international break, is the make-up game, and that's between Western Sydney Wanderers and Melbourne Victory. Sunday evening, 5 p.m. kickoff, 10 play and Paramount Plus if you want to catch this one. Doesn't have too many permutations on the ladder, except for Melbourne shortening that gap as they chase City.
I mean, it's important because if Victory drop points here, then City, congratulations, they can secure it against Newcastle the following Friday. So expect a professional Victory performance. Standalone game like this, I just wonder if the Western Sydney Wanderers, they'll be stinging after the derby. Do you give them any chance of unlocking a bit of a surprise performance? They did draw with Victory 4-4 down in Melbourne when they last met, so they know they can score against
goals
this
at the
team.
Moment. I wouldn't write anyone off, and that goes for the Wanderers as well. I still think they've improved enough of late to make it hard for Victory.
Sunday afternoon, 5 o'clock at that one kicking off. Time now to check in what's happening on Total A-Leagues with Vince and Tommy.
Coming up on Total A-Leagues, we chat to rising star and top goal scorer Noah Bodic, discuss a crazy weekend in the Isuzu Ute A-League, and we give our predictions for the final top 6. Tommy Orr's back. Tommy, it's going to be an incredible last few weeks of the season, isn't it?
It is. Every week's like finals football now. I guess so much on the line for all teams, starting off with Adelaide hosting Sydney FC this weekend, so lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about, mate. Looking forward to doing it with you. Check it out every Wednesday afternoon on the A-League's website, app and YouTube channel.
All looks good. Thanks, Vince and Tommy. Lots coming up there. And, of course, Ninja A-League still on our screens at 5 p.m. on Sunday evening. Teresa Polias and Teo Pellizzeri, thanks so much for your insight and input again today. You can have a bit of a rest, can't you, Teo, this weekend?
The A-League men's is still going. We've got hey, if you ask, the Australia Under-17 Joeys are playing on 10 Play, so make sure you watch them. We saw our boys Under-20s win a tournament. How about the Under-17s join them? That sounds good to me.
A couple of Matildas wins in the bag would be all right as well. That is it from us. Dub Zone over and out for today. See you all again next week.